Well, as we think about the provocative questions of lightning talks, what has come up for me is this question of what if CST isn't a category for investing, but it's a compass for us, a genuine compass that is helping steer our collective ship, our orientation. And what if the experience of forming funds and shaping the flows of capital are actually about our own spiritual formation as well? So this is some of what's been guiding me over the last year. I've been working with Catholic sisters. I started my career in a community development finance institution many, many years ago. And that space was birthed from the courageous community investing work of Catholic sisters beginning in the early 70s. So I, like many of us in this room, know that I stand on those shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of those sisters. And over the last year, I've had the privilege of going deep with them and with their stories and listening for what this next season of community investing work could look like with and for them. One of those sisters that I've had the pleasure of sitting with is Sister Kareem Flo. So Felipe mentioned her yesterday. She's an Adrian Dominican sister. She lives about an hour from my house. So I've been going and sitting with her in her room. She's in a tiny room there, and we're working on her book. And she's trying to tell the story of what it was like for her to do this community investing work. When we talk about investing, we're really talking about what we give value to, the power to decide that, and the power to exclude or to include, the power to shape the world in the image of individual accumulation, or perhaps the image of a shared life. Over 50 years ago, Catholic sisters recognized that how their money was used, who and what it was for, could either reinforce systems of domination or help build the conditions for a more just and loving world. They saw neighborhoods that were hollowed out by misinvestment and workers stripped of dignity, communities excluded from the financial systems that were in place, and they asked, how could we use our financial power differently? And Sister Kareem said this, when you have money, you have power. And I was very careful to say, I'm not going to use that power. I'm handing you the power. Money is the resource. It's just a resource, and I happen to have it, and you need it. For many communities of sisters, money has been a ministry, not just an enabler of their mission, but an expression of it. So beginning in the 70s, pooling their resources, creating these community loan funds, credit unions, and cooperatives, they used capital as a means of solidarity rather than control. And that has captivated me. It helps me it gives a sense of purpose and meaning to this work for me. So what is Charism Capital? We are a pooled fund co-founded by women religious congregations, built for them and for all of you, for other investors. It began with a shared longing, first, to help more congregations, monasteries, small nonprofits, and groups that have often been shut out of private market impact investing to help them live out their missions through their investments and invite others to come along. And second, to build something that is truly guided by the gospel and by Catholic social teaching. The word charism, I think this is on the next slide, comes from the Greek charis, meaning gift or grace. Many of us know that these congregations have their charisms, their distinctive ways of loving the world. So how do we gather these diverse gifts and translate them into a practice of investing that heals relationships between capital and community, power and participation, wealth and the common good? We haven't designed this fund with consultants or intermediaries. We've been running a participatory discernment process over the last year with 11 different communities, coming together, praying, reflecting, co-designing this vision. We recognize that much of the Catholic impact investing landscape was focused on, that was available to people, was focused on market rate returns or capital preservation. In many instances was using Catholic social teaching maybe as an overlay rather than as that core driver or core compass. And we also saw that there are a lot of structural barriers for people, especially smaller groups, to be able to participate in this work. So how do we unlock that resourcing? How do we mobilize the missing middle in some cases? We knew that if we were going to go down this path, we needed to address some of those structural barriers and also hold the tensions. So that meant thinking about how we could lower investment minimums for participation, how we could give groups who needed it a return on their investment, how we could give groups who needed it better liquidity or not having to lock up their capital so long. So those are some of the folks that gathered in May for this participatory design workshop. You will see some familiar faces there, but it was a deeply loving space to be a part of. I wanted to share that part of what emerged from this participatory process is what we're calling a moral ecology for the fund. And these are some of our kind of guiding ideas here. The first is we collaborate to co-liberate our capital. So how do we start to think creatively, all of us in this room, about the structures, the strategies we need to bring more people to the table, those who have often had a hard time getting into this private impact investing space. As one sister said, let's discern what it looks like to think and act communally beyond any one individual charism. The second is this idea that we love the world through our investments. We aim to build something that is not led principally by what we're earning, but what we're helping to restore. Love is an action. Our guiding question is simple. How do we love the world through these investments? We also aim to direct resources to places that the market has neglected, like many are in this room. That means a strong commitment to the Global South. That's something that came out of this process with the sisters, to women, to indigenous and refugee-led initiatives, to the peripheries, where new life begins. And we consider restorative capital to be a kind of capital that accompanies rather than dominates. And then we talked about this in our breakout earlier, but the other idea that we're working with is discernment over optimization. CST isn't an easy check-the-box exercise. It offers us an orientation to discernment. So instead of approaching this work as we've so often thought about and we've been trained to do in the world of investing, rather than approaching it through a lens of optimization, whether that's for returns or risk or even impact, how do we embrace this concept of integral discernment? How can we approach this work as an active relationship and listen for where capital can most faithfully serve? So to recap, we are pooling, we are coming together in order to expand and broaden participation. Where can we be doing that in our lives, in our context, in our work? Second, we are using Catholic social teaching as a compass, but also building on this rich 5 decades of lineage and legacy, and then asking, how does that evolve and give life to something new as we move forward? These times are existential, so we need more of us. We need more of us to be at the table and participating in these ways. As one sister reminded us, grace is never hoarded. It multiplies in the giving. Our hope is that Charism Capital can become this, a living expression of this grace multiplied, a reordering of how power flows, and a witness that even in finance, love can be the measure of things. Thank you.